So, we're talking about the exciting prospect of being able to look into the brain and being able to see things that we've never been able to see before, but it's also the seat of everything for us, right? It's our thinking, it is our emotions, it is our fatigue levels, it's our neurological disease, it's all of those things. And if we have access to it, so too do the companies who are providing the products. And as we already know, that means that governments also have a window into it in ways that they wouldn't have otherwise. And the risks to that are really quite profound because it's not like other kinds of data where at the very least we're expressing intentionally our communication with the rest of the world, whether it's watching a video or hitting a like button or typing a message. At least it is something that has come out of our brain and into the world. This is what's still in our brain. And, it introduces a kind of threat of surveillance and misuse of that data in ways that really fundamentally, I think, get at these concepts of a right to mental privacy and a right to freedom of thought and a right to self-determination to be able to choose, how we use our brains, whether we have access to them, who has access to them, all of those questions. And so those are really tracking to fundamental human rights. The UNESCO process tracks that as well and frames it around human rights. And should it be adopted in November 2025, by the 194 member states, that would at least serve as a really powerful soft law mechanism. But if you're listening to this podcast, you are familiar with law, you understand that soft law only goes so far. And so the question is, what kind of hard law mechanisms might be put into place that could actually protect people? In the US, there have been a couple of laws that have been passed to try to protect neural data. I think they're misguided because they're very narrow. One of them's in Colorado. It protects as sensitive data, neural data, when it's used for identification. It almost is never used for identification, so that's not that helpful. And there was a significant lobbying effort by TechNet to narrow the definition to make it so that it didn't really apply. And then in California, they passed a broader law that protects neural data when it's derived from neurotechnology. And it narrowly defines it again, whereas there's lots of ways to get neural data. Like you can get neural data without literally using neurotechnology. You can get cognitive data by doing things like even heart rate when you're applying AI in order to make inferences about brain and mental states, or eye tracking is incredibly powerful for being able to make inferences about mental states. And so it intentionally excludes all of the rest of that data as non-neural data, so therefore not sensitive. Places like Chile have passed mental integrity laws. Some other countries have moved toward doing this. I have an article I published called Beyond Neural Data, Cognitive Biometrics and Privacy, where we lay out in a table like all of the different kind of laws that are happening in the space. What I think we need is to move toward recognizing that at the one hand, we do need these stronger human rights. At the other hand, we need context-specific rights. So like in the US, we had the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, which looked at misuse against the use of genetic information in employment or the use of it for health insurance. And I think trying to figure out the context in which we think there is misuse of brain data and cognitive data, like in educational settings or in employment settings or for government surveillance purposes, and creating protections against that would allow people to enjoy the upside of the technology and the upside of access, while also being able to share with like medical researchers or places where it could really lead to great insight. So we have to find that right balance between, sharing with the people who aren't going to misuse it, safeguards against the misuse in the specific context that we're concerned